As the general manager of the Astros, Dana Brown, told the Athletics' Chandler Rome, I don't see any scenario where we are sellers. We're going to be buyers. Welcome everyone to the Monday edition of Fair Territory. I'm coming to you today not from my home studio, but a residence inn somewhere in North America. The only reason I say that is because on Foul Territory, AJ Przinsky is always demanding to know where I am. He would actually like to know the exact location, but I'm not going to reveal that. I don't want him stalking me or anyone else coming by. I'm where I need to be for my work assignments. Now, nary a week passes in the sport of Major League Baseball without some kind of scandal occurring, and we've got a doozy this week. As we tape, it has just been announced by Major League Baseball that 5 players have received suspensions, one of which, Tucupita Marcano, has received a lifetime ban for betting on baseball and games involving his team. Marcano was a member of the Pittsburgh Pirates last season. He was on the injured list when it was found through a legal sports bookmaker that he has bet or did bet on games involving the Pirates. That's a lifetime ban. When you bet on games involving the team that employs you, lifetime ban. When you bet on games that do not involve your particular team, that's a 1-year suspension, and that is what the other 4 players received. And let's go over the names right now and just to see who exactly was penalized by Major League Baseball today. The names, as I mentioned, are Tucupita Marcano. He now is a Padres infielder, or at least was. He's banned permanently. Michael Kelly, Oakland A's pitcher, and minor leaguers, 3 of them. Jay Groom, a Padres pitcher. Jose Rodriguez, a Phillies infielder, and Andrew Saalfrank, who's been up with the Diamondbacks at various times. He's been in the minor leagues this year. He also received a 1-year ban. So again, permanent for Marcano, 1-year ban for the others. Now, it was inevitable that this kind of thing was going to occur in baseball, just as it occurred in the NBA. Legalized sports gambling is now something that is a fact of life in 38 of the 50 states. And we've seen some things flare up already in Major League Baseball with illegal bookmakers, of course. That's the Ippei Mizuhara story. And we have also learned of an investigation into David Fletcher for betting with an illegal bookmaker, the same one Mizuhara used as well. Sports leagues are now involved with gambling companies. Sports media companies, including the 3 that employ me, are now involved with sports gambling companies. People around North America, actually all over the world, but I'm talking specifically about our part of the world, are inundated daily with gambling ads, appeals to bet on whatever sport you might want to bet on. So that's why it was inevitable that something like this was going to happen. There's simply too much out there. Now, there's a distinction clearly between betting on legalized sports books or with legalized sports books and illegal bookmakers. The legalized sports books, at least, are regulated very severely by the federal government. Okay, and it's actually something that's interesting here because that is how MLB learned of this through one of the legalized sports books. And the details in MLB's statement on the suspensions are rather vivid. They had all the information here. This was not an investigation that needed to take 6 months, apparently. So these things are going to happen. And you might say, well, Commissioner Rob Manfred should have stepped in here. Baseball has a different relationship than the other sports with gambling because of its past. Because of the 1919 Black Sox, because of Pete Rose, baseball should have been more careful. Well, that's a nice idealistic way to look at the world, but it's not realistic. And I would have been shocked if MLB was the one sports league that drew the line and said, we are going to take a stand here. We are going to occupy the moral high ground. It would be just unrealistic to expect baseball to stand out in that fashion. But here's the trade-off. The trade-off is exactly what happened on Tuesday. Marcano banned for life, 4 others banned for a year. This is going to happen again. It might happen in a more serious, vivid way. And this is the trade-off all leagues are making. They want that, they got it. And from time to time, MLB, NBA, NHL, NFL, you're going to have to deal with stories like this. All right, moving on to the actual sport of baseball. Yes, they actually play baseball at this time of year rather than just having stuff going on off the field. And there is a huge story in the game right now, and it's one we've talked about at various points, but let's dive a little bit deeper into the New York Yankees and what they've accomplished. And I know fans say, oh man, we talk about every team here, don't even go there. The Yankees right now, 42-19, tied for the Phillies for the best record in the major leagues. And while we saw some of this coming, I think we saw the Judge Soto offense being quite dynamic. I don't know that anyone saw the starting pitching being what it has been for the Yankees. And especially after, of course, the Yankees in spring training lost Gerrit Cole. And here is a rotation that, if you remember, had significant questions coming into the season. Clark Schmidt was not really established. He was an okay pitcher last year, but he was kind of finding his way. Carlos Rodon, Nestor Cortez Jr., those guys were trying to come off injuries. They had rough seasons last year. Rodon faced the question of whether he could even succeed in New York. And then there was Marcus Stroman coming over as a free agent, and would he fit in? Four pretty significant questions, and I'm not even counting Cole at that point because Cole, during the offseason, was not hurt. Luis Gil, we did not know much about him. He had pitched a little bit last year and done well, but he was not anything close to what he has become. So let's look at just where the Yankees are rotation-wise, because this is the foundation of their success, even more so, in my opinion, than Judge and Soto. Rotation ERA. Phillies lead the majors, 2.71. The Yankees are right behind them, 2.78, followed by the Orioles, the Royals, the rotation, the backbone of their success as well, and then the Red Sox, who have faded a little bit of late as far as the rotation is concerned. And now let's look at the individuals with the Yankees. These five guys have made all but two of the starts for the New York Yankees this year. And again, Gerrit Cole has yet to make one. He starts his rehabilitation assignment Tuesday at Double-A. He's close to coming back. Luis Gil, 1.99. Clark Schmidt, now on the injured list with a right lat strain, 2.52. Stroman at 2.73. Rodon, 3.09. Nestor Cortez, 3.46. That is impressive, folks. And when Gerrit Cole comes back, presuming he is healthy, this group gets even better. Clearly, the loss of Schmidt in a breakout season is a problem. Clearly, Gil, because he had Tommy John surgery relatively recently, is not going to pitch 200 innings this season. But it seems to me they're in a pretty good spot. They've got some younger starters as well that can fill in. We've seen Cody Petit make 2 spot starts for the Yankees so far, and they have others as well. So they'll have to add to their bullpen at some point, most likely. They might have to address their corner infield a little bit if Rizzo doesn't come around, and if DJ LeMahieu, who is coming off the injured list, doesn't really come around either. But my gosh, the Yankees are the team that they have wanted to be for quite some time now. And when Gerrit Cole comes back, Aaron Boone has said at least 2 rehab starts, they're going to be even better. SeatGeek is the official ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, so they have you covered for all of your baseball ticket needs. With over 28 million downloads, they're the #1 rated ticketing app. Baseball season is in full swing, and you don't want to miss out. SeatGeek has your tickets to every game and, of course, concerts, festivals, and more. Every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee, and SeatGeek is the only site that lets you return your tickets ahead of the event with swaps. Use our code FAIR for $20 off tickets at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase with promo code FAIR, FAIR. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app. On the other side of the coin, we've got Blake Snell. Now, Blake Snell is a guy that has won Cy Young awards in each league, including last year in the National League when he had that amazing finish. 1.20 ERA in his last 28 starts, I believe it was. It was an amazing season. And yet we know what happened in free agency. He lingered on the market, did not get what a lot of us thought he was going to get, winds up signing with the Giants 2 years, $62 million, with an opt-out after this season. Now, we know what has happened to Snell. Second trip to the injured list right now. He's on the injured list again with a left groin strain. And when you look at the timeline of his season, it is rather ugly. This is a guy who did not sign until late. Of course, it was almost at the end of spring training when Blake Snell signed. It was, I believe, March 19th. Oh, here come the dates. March 19th, 2 years, $62 million with the Giants. Doesn't make his season debut until April 8th, and he does that without any spring training starts and without going to the minor leagues. Then, after 3 starts, placed on the IL with a left adductor strain. comes off the IL May 22nd, makes 3 more starts, and then goes back on the injured list with a left groin strain. He's pitched a total of 23 and 2/3 innings this season. 23 and 2/3. We're in June, and he has a 9.51 ERA. Now, I alluded to this in a recent notes column, the idea that Snell and Montgomery both missed spring training and how much it might have affected them. Montgomery's ERA is in the high fives as well. He's been healthy, and he had started his season with a couple of minor league starts, but he has not been as effective as he would want to be. And both players were quoted recently as saying, man, we really did miss spring training. Now, who is responsible for that? That is a debate that we can have forever. Was it the agent, Scott Boras, holding out too long, having expectations that were too high, or was it the teams, as Boras and Snell have contended, not reacting to the market, or what should have been the market, and making better offers sooner? Regardless, I think we've seen here the value of a major league pitcher pitching in spring training, not simply at Scott Boras' training institute. Boras has had success over the years with other pitchers who have been out for a long time or not signed right away. Kyle Loesch was one. Dallas Keuchel was another. These guys had success after doing pretty much the program that Snell and Montgomery did, but it's not for everyone. And obviously, spring training has value to starting pitchers. There is value to that buildup, value to facing major league hitters, value to being on the field in spikes, going through drills, all of that. And Snell and Montgomery, at least early on, season's hardly over, it seems they've paid the price for being out so long. Time now for the Inside Dish. This is the part of the show where I talk about maybe a story I've written, maybe a trend in the game, maybe a particular team. And this week I want to focus on the Houston Astros and what their approach might be at the trade deadline. But before getting into the particulars, I want to go back in time a little bit. First, I want to go back to the 2022 World Series. Just as the Astros were closing in on their second title in 6 years, I was on Fox doing the game that night as a dugout reporter, and I talked about where the Astros 2022 team stood in the context of their recent history. The sign-stealing scandal, which of course had taken place 5 to 6 years before that. And I remember what I said that night, and what I said was that the second title, the 2022 title, does not validate what had happened before, does not vindicate the sign-stealing scandal, does not make that team any more legitimate. But I also said that the 2022 team has to be viewed as a separate entity, that the sport was playing under different rules now, harsher sign-stealing rules, and that what had happened in the past, even though some of the same players remained, should not be held against that particular team. Well, naturally, Astros fans were mad at me, as they often seem to be mad at me, for even bringing up the scandal at that moment. And then other fans were mad at me for saying, wait a second, that 2022 team, the one winning that night, we don't like them either. So the following year, as the ALCS came to a close with the Texas Rangers about to beat the Astros, I spoke again on Fox. We had that series as well. And I mentioned, using very careful language, that this team was approaching a crossroads, that it was unfair to say the Astros were done, the Astros era was no more, but at the same time, the following season, the one that we are currently playing, Alex Bregman was going to be in his free agent year, and the year after that, Kyle Tucker and Framber Valdez were going to be in their free agent years, and that the Astros eventually were going to face some hard decisions. At that time, I don't think any of us expected the Astros would be in the position they are on Tuesday, June 4th. 7 games out in the AL West, 7 games out in the wild card race with an expanded format, and with the 4th worst record in the American League. This is a team that you would think is trending towards selling. They could do some really interesting things at the deadline. Ryan Pressly and Justin Verlander are 2 other players that are on relatively short-term deals. 2024 they're good for, but 2025 there are options involved. So again, if the Astros wanted to, they could make some really interesting moves. But as the general manager of the Astros, Dana Brown, told the Athletic's Chandler Rome, I don't see any scenario where we are sellers. We're going to be buyers. Now, again, it's June 4th. The Astros have plenty of time to right the ship, but we've been saying that for 2 months now. The thing is, with the expanded postseason, teams, and not just the Astros, can get sucked into this "we're going to be okay" mentality because the season is so long and because the expanded postseason offers such hope. Go back to last year, the Arizona Diamondbacks in early August looked like they were buried. What happened? They had a pretty good run to the end of the season, finished with 84 wins, and somehow beat the Dodgers and the Phillies in the National League playoffs, and then in the World Series fell short, but they got to the World Series for the first time since 2001. Great season. Lose to the Rangers, okay, but you're there. So teams like the Astros, teams especially like the Astros who have had recent success, are not going to concede easily. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, you might look at the Mets and say, well, why shouldn't they look at this the same way? And maybe they will. Maybe if the Mets show any signs of life in the next 2 months, they'll decide we're not going to sell off. But they don't have the same recent tradition of the Astros, where the Astros have routinely contended, competed, and of course, gone to the ALCS seemingly every year. 7 straight, in fact. So I don't expect the Astros to become sellers, even though they have an issue with Jose Urquidy having a setback, even though they've had all of these things go against them. They are a team that has an owner, Jim Crane, who has basically said in the past, that's not the way I'm going to do it. We're going to compete. We're going to compete every year. Now, should they sell? Different question. Should you trade Bregman, who is finally getting hot? I don't know. Maybe you take a shot at re-signing him, though I don't know that the odds of the Astros keeping Alex Bregman are any more than like 5 to 10%. But they can look at it that way, and they can say, this is our team. We don't want to betray our ticket holders for the rest of the season and trade off our parts. We want to put the best product out there possible. Again, you can trade Bregman. You can maybe trade Valdez. You can do some things. You can look at trading Justin Verlander. But the Astros don't seem inclined, on June 4th at least, to do that. We'll see if that stance changes, but frankly, I do not expect that it will. Not from Jim Crane, not from Dana Brown, not from anyone else involved with this team. They are going to stay in this thing, or at least try to stay in this thing, as long as they possibly can, believing in what they've accomplished over the last 7 years. We'll be back after a quick word from our Foul Territory friends, Scott Braun and Eric Kratz.
Eric Kratz here from FT. I'm a former athlete that really pays attention to his routine. And AG1 every morning before my workouts is something that gets my day going.
Hey, Braun here. AG1 is a foundational nutrition supplement that delivers daily nutrients and gut health support, and it's backed by multiple research studies so you can trust what you're putting in your body.
Unlike other products which only test their ingredients in isolation, AG1 tests their formula as a whole.
Ready for this stat? 97% of people in a research study felt more energy after 30 days of drinking AG1. If I had to recommend one product to support whole body health, it's AG1, and that's why FT is excited to have them as a new partner. Starting your journey with AG1 is a win. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase at drinkag1.com/foul. That's drinkag1.com/FOUL. Go check it out, FT fam.
All right, time now for Grillin Ken. Let's get to your questions. First question comes from Skylar Timmons, who asks, do you see the Rockies doing anything trade-wise? We've heard about the Jays' interest in Ryan McMahon, but the Rocks don't want to trade him. But could anyone else potentially be a trade chip teams could be interested in? The Rockies are an interesting team, Skylar, and they have some talented players. Most of them are younger, so they don't want to trade those guys. I'm talking about Tovar and Doyle, that group. Those are, in their minds, the guys who are going to form the foundation for their future. They do have 2 potential free agents who could attract interest. I'm talking about the catcher, Elias Diaz, and the reliever who's had a really good season, Jalen Beeks. They also have some starting pitchers, some veteran guys who have a year of control after this one, who are kind of all performing pretty well. Cal Quantrill is one, Austin Gomber another, Dakota Hudson a third. And as the Rockies get some of their injured pitchers back, I'm talking about the guys on the IL right now, like Freeland and Marquez and Senzatella, it's conceivable that they might be open to trading one of those starting pitchers. None of them is going to bring back anything great in return, I wouldn't imagine. But if I were the Rockies, given the pitching problems that they have historically had, I would want to hold on to all of my depth unless I could get something really special in return. Gomber is a guy maybe that could bring you that kind of package, but at the same time, I'd be real protective of my pitching. All right, now to the next question. This one comes from Josh Newman, who asks, do you think the Yankees would even entertain letting Gerrit Cole use his unique opt-out clause at the end of the season in order to retain Juan Soto long term? So the way that opt-out clause works, Cole can opt out, and the Yankees can void that by adding a 10th year to his contract at $36 million. So what Josh is asking, I guess, is whether the Yankees will simply let Gerrit Cole go to make more salary space for Juan Soto. Now, if you're a Yankees fan, I know exactly what you're thinking, and it's what you should be thinking. The Yankees can afford both Gerrit Cole and Juan Soto. If Cole opts out, if I'm the Yankees, assuming he's healthy, and that's a reasonable question at this point, assuming he's healthy, I am voiding that opt-out, picking up the 10th year at $36 million, keeping Gerrit Cole for at least 1 year. I would even consider negotiating an extension with him, maybe to lower the number a little bit, but give him more guaranteed money over time. And I'm still going all out for Juan Soto. When they made that trade, it was not with the idea of letting Gerrit Cole go. It was with the idea of keeping Cole, keeping Juan Soto, going for it. That's what the Yankees should do. I expect that is what they will do. All right, now for the final question. This one comes from Ryan O'Neill, who asks a good question. What does Torkelson's demotion, Spencer Torkelson's demotion, mean for his future in Detroit? I don't know that it jeopardizes his immediate future. They want him to get straightened out. But the real question is, what is Spencer Torkelson, a former number 1 overall pick in the Major League Baseball draft, going to be long term? We saw last year 31 home runs, 94 RBIs, 758 OPS, looked like he had turned a corner, looked like he was going to be a guy that was going to be a contributor for years to come. This year, he struggled. 201 batting average, 597 OPS, just 4 homers so far. He is going to slug at times. I think we've seen that. The question is whether he can hit well enough to be a successful major leaguer. Is the hit tool, as baseball people call it, good enough? That's something that only Spencer Torkelson will determine. And as for his future in Detroit, the Tigers want him to succeed. There's no doubt about that. They sent him down so in their minds, hopefully, and his mind as well, he can get straightened out, come back to the big leagues, and be the player that they envision him becoming. I don't know that that's going to happen. I don't know that it's not going to happen. I would bet on a guy who was a number 1 overall pick. I would bet on a guy who has a track record of success. At the same time, the sport is difficult. I say it time and time again. There's no guarantee that Spencer Torkelson is going to be the player that the Tigers want him to be. I want to thank everyone for their questions, everyone for watching, listening. You know where to find us: YouTube, Apple, Spotify. Like us, subscribe to us. We will be back Thursday with Alana Rizzo, our usual Thursday show, and then I'll be back again next Monday, regularly scheduled time, with another edition of Fair Territory. Hey everybody, be sure to like and subscribe for more content. Fair Territory airs each week, and we'd love for you to become part of our community. Here's another video you might enjoy. See you next time.